Hello, my name is Tasha. Welcome to my film for PEPELT, my film for February, and our picture book of the month, which of course I am sure you know by now is Julian is a Mermaid. Now, our theme for this month was award-winning picture books, and Julian is a Mermaid is the one we chose to review as a team. Now, you will, perhaps better like this then, if you've listened to Gail and Sandy's video and watched it, you will know all the awards that Jessica Love has won for Julian as a Mermaid, and you probably also already have a really good idea of what is going on in this book. Now, I work in primary teacher education in the Netherlands, and usually I share a number of activities that I would do with a picture book in my classes. Today is slightly different because I'm going to tell you a little bit mainly about what student teachers think about this book. Perhaps that is of interest for you if you're thinking of including it in your lessons in primary teacher ed. Now, a few weeks ago, I had a day where I was teaching, around 40 student teachers. I had them in 4 different groups, and we were working on materials development. So I had a big set of books that I brought in, and I also brought in Julian. Now, Julian was not part of the books we were working with during the lessons, but I asked them when they were working in pairs or in small groups if they could just take a few minutes to also look at Julian as a Mermaid, as I'd like to discuss it at the end. So I just let them look at it, and at the end of the lesson I'd allocated a bit of time, and I asked them what they thought about Julian as a Mermaid. Now, what was very interesting is that all 40 of them, they just thought it was a fantastic book. They just loved the illustrations. They thought it was just really so different, and the style and the colours and the way it had been made, that really spoke to them. It was nothing like they'd ever seen. So I then moved on to ask them. I asked them, would they use this picture book in one of their English lessons? And there was a little bit of hesitation. There were some students who then thought, yes, actually, said that I would use it, but some didn't reply. Some were a bit hesitant. So I said to them, well, what do you think the story is about? And that's when it really became quite interesting, because suddenly all these student teachers were expressing their ideas in English and in Dutch, saying what they thought this story was about. And you could see that this book actually meant something else for different student teachers. So for some said, well, I think it's about a child dressing up. Here in the Netherlands, it's carnival, so schools were already starting to prepare, so they were thinking, they had that kind of context in mind. Other students mentioned terms such as gender fluidity. I also heard somebody talk about transgender children. Then we spoke about, or some students thought it was just about dressing up, and there was no need to label anybody. It was a boy who wanted to dress up as a mermaid. We had students who interpreted the story as Julian representing, the grandmother representing acceptance, and Julian representing confidence to be who you want to be. So quite interesting different takes on the story. I then asked them again if they would teach it, if they would use it to teach a primary English language lesson or an English lesson. And they said the hesitation had become less. So now they were suddenly thinking of possible reasons or how it could fit into their curriculum, how it could fit into their lessons. And again, that was quite inspiring, because they were starting to discuss, one teacher, student teacher, suddenly mentioned, and this happened in every class, how in the lesson in their class there was a girl or a boy. Let's say there was a boy who had nail varnish or who liked makeup, which often is more associated with girls, and there were girls who were wearing clothes which were considered to be clothes more suitable, or how shall I say, that were in that society would say are more for boys. So that was quite interesting. So they all had experiences with children taking on other roles, so to speak. And that was in every single class of student teachers over the past 1.5 years that they'd been placed in schools. They had experienced a number of, one student teacher told me that a boy was coming to do a trial lesson, and the mother rang in advance and asked if he could join the class wearing a dress. And I said, of course. And she said, this would have been great if I could have used that in that lesson to really create acceptance within the class that it's okay to be who you want to be. And so they were just coming with loads of stories, sharing experiences, coming up with ideas when they could use this book. And also interesting to see how many student teachers actually had in their circle of friends or members of the families who were transgender. So that it was a very interesting, so I had 4 very interesting sessions like that. In the end, student teachers felt, and I think that is really the key, the key message of this lesson that we had, or the outcome that I was really most impressed by, was that student teachers felt this book really had to be discovered by children themselves. So as a teacher, they needed to let children explore this book and, how shall I say, perhaps in simple words, say Julian had to be whoever Julian needed to be for the reader. And I think that is really quite interesting. The general message really is tolerance, acceptance, be who you want to be. And I think that really was very nice as an outcome. I think, though, that in order to teach such a book and to teach it in English and be able to talk about possible questions that link to children or adults who represent the LGBT community, then I think they need, the specific language, and one has to, as a teacher educator, also invest some time to make sure that student teachers know how to express this in English, or whatever they would like to say in English. Okay, now that is all I have to say about Julian is a Mermaid. I am so delighted that the student teachers in the Netherlands felt very confident and inspired after a discussion, and that this is a book that they would really like to, that they appreciated, and is a book that they would also like to try in their primary English classroom. So that is it from me, and I will see you again in March. Have a lovely end of February. Bye bye, and thank you for listening.